gentlemen, and thank you for joining us on another exciting episode of Bayonne Tonight. I'm your host, Sean Flores, and tonight we are shining the spotlight on one of the main sources of info and gossip alike. That's right, we are joined by none other than Bayonne High School's own newspaper team, The Beacon. Don't go anywhere, folks. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everyone. I am here with the Beacon team. It's so great to have you on the show. Tell us your names and what your job is on the team.
Hi, my name is S01E02, and I'm the editor-in-chief of The Beacon.
Hello, my name is Nicholas Mirage, and I'm the assistant editor.
Hi, my name is Michelle Zimney. I'm a section editor for In and Around BHS.
My name is Carrie. I'm the section editor for Arts and Culture.
And my name is Morel, and I'm a contributing staff member.
So describe the inspiration behind some of your pieces.
Yeah, so I came into this position with a vision in mind of sort of bringing back and highlighting the culture that we have at Bayonne High School, because I feel like that's something that we've sort of been lacking in editions of the past, and it sort of inspired, our featured section, which is really just to look into what Bayonne High School students are thinking and what are some really hard-pressing opinions on these very divisive issues. So our most recent edition, we had our identity section, and this was really an opportunity for our staff members and anyone really interested in contributing to sort of speak about things such as, their ethnicity, their sexual identity, their gender orientation, in a really honest and unfiltered way. And a lot of our other pieces that are just exist sort of within our newspaper are really sort of inspired by just a willingness to share these honest opinions on really important issues within our school.
I see. It's very diverse. This question is for the chief editor. What does your job entail, and what do you need to make sure that what gets done?
Yeah, so the thing about being editor-in-chief is coming into this position was a little bit jarring, just because you do sort of have to find the balance between being a supportive friend and leader to these amazing team of writers, but then also knowing when it's time to sit down and get things done. So as editor-in-chief, my job is to sort of guide meetings. I'm, the one speaking primarily during meetings. I set a schedule, I set a calendar, I choose things such as what articles are going to be featured within our newspaper, what our featured section is going to look like. But then on top of that, I'm responsible for one of the final says on articles alongside designing the actual newspaper itself.
All right. Nick, how about you?
So my job primarily is to assist Alicia, which is the editor-in-chief. So that just primarily means doing any, I also, I help edit the articles, but I also give my advice on terms of what articles I really enjoyed reading and advice to Alicia on different, graphic design or layout design. And I also just, give more advice about what articles and the featured section and what I think would work for, the upcoming edition.
All right. Are there any limits when publishing a story?
So we do have a couple parameters set for our writers, and it's usually, most of the stuff is formatting, so we have specific guidelines on how an article should be formatted. We do have sort of a very flexible page limit, and that's really just to make sure writers are giving their message in a concise way that will attract all kinds of readers. But, our writers are given so much freedom in the stories they want to tell, and I think that's such an important aspect to our paper is, something we've all heard so many times, truth conquers all, and I think there's nothing more important than a story that someone's willing to tell.
What are the origins behind the Beacon? How did it start off?
So in terms of, I remember having a meeting with Mr. Baccarella, and one of the first things he said to me was that he remembers reading The Beacon when he was a student. And The Beacon has existed, it's been a staple part of Bayonne High School culture for so many years. In Mr. Lombardi's room, he actually has a closet which contains past editions of The Beacon, and some of those go as far back as the 1930s. If I'm correct,
Yeah.
that might be a little bit of a throwaway number, but that's so far from what I've heard. In terms of this year's edition, that was really just, it's really been sort of my brainchild for as long as I've been in the Beacon, since my sophomore year. And I remember it really came to fruition sort of the summer before this year. I had met with Nicholas in Lighthouse Diner, and I made it a point to tell him, you know, this is the golden age of Bayonne High School, and I want to talk about it, and I want people to see it the way that I do.
All right. What posed some of you to join the Beacon in the first place? Michelle, we haven't heard from you. Why don't you say something?
Originally, like freshman year, I sort of had an idea of joining the Beacon, but at that point, I was already doing certain things after school that kind of prevented me from doing that. I was in Biodome, like the Biodome Club, OSA, I believe it is. I forget the name of it because it's already been so long since the club came to an end, but I was working on science fairs after school, so I didn't have that opportunity to join. And then I was thinking, it was junior year during COVID, and I was like, you know what, like I've always wanted to get involved, and I think now is a good time to get involved. So the one regret that I do have is that I wish I joined sooner.
Carrie?
Well, like Michelle, I was planning to join the Beacon since my freshman year, but I never like brought myself to it. So like junior year, we were in quarantine, and I just wanted to get involved, given that my high school career was almost over. And I thought that the Beacon was a good place to get my creative mind out there and be able to write what I wanted and just contribute to the school.
All right. What are some of your most popular articles? And can you elaborate on them?
Yeah, so in our first edition, after much begging and so much convincing, I had gotten Nicholas and myself into the set of the film Armageddon Today, I think it is. I'm expecting an incredible film. There was an amazing team of producers. The director is incredible, James Gray.
Yeah.
He was an incredible person, and we got actually a chance to speak with him, and that was the cover story for our first edition. So we came in there with a bang. But as for our second edition, we did have a couple of anonymous articles that sort of got people talking. One of them was about sort of the recent proliferation of our most embarrassing moments via Instagram. So the rise in Instagram accounts that the sleep account, the hair account, and one of our writers did a very hard-hitting piece on that, and I was so proud of it. And then our cover story for second edition was an article about gender warfare in the Bayonne High School bathrooms, and it's sort of hearkening back to a time in which most of you probably remember it. One of the bathrooms in one of the earlier houses had a pole on it, and it sort of dissected the female student's body, and it allowed male students to actually vote on it. And I thought that article was very poignant, just for the fact that, you know, this was something that just because you hadn't voted doesn't mean you didn't see it, and doesn't mean you weren't affected by it. Yeah.
All right. Carrie, Michelle, do you have any favorites?
I mean, personally, I've always really liked the anonymous submissions. In past times or past editions, there's been poetry, especially in the first edition. I don't remember the name of the poem, but somebody did an anonymous poem, and I really enjoyed it. And I even really enjoyed now that we have the anonymous submissions through the Instagram, where people can submit their anonymous questions. And I always found that to be very interesting, because it's interesting to see these are people that they're not contributing members, but they're still able to contribute in their own way to the paper.
I think my favorite part of the Beacon is the short stories, because a lot of the writers submit them anonymously, and even though we don't know who they are because they are submitted to Alicia, it's still really good to see how heartfelt they are and how they could relate to them personally, and they give you an idea of what that person's they want to write about. And I think it's great that the Beacon allows us to have such an open mind and such being so creative without any limits, that they allow people to submit articles anonymously about whatever they want.
So what's the process behind publishing these articles? Is it stressful, exciting? Elaborate.
I usually say that the later part of a publication cycle is the craziest time of my life, just because there are so many things that go into getting an edition out there. So it starts with our writers. Ray is one of our contributing staff, and she knows what it's like. We have a brainstorming list, writers can choose topics, they write about it, and then they submit it via our shared drive. After that, it goes to our section editors, who are responsible for taking the first look at it, and they're the first set of eyes, and they edit, they leave comments. Then it goes to Nicholas, who is our assistant editor. He will take a look at it, he'll make notes of, this article I think would fit here, I really love this article, I think we can expand upon this one. And then it comes to me, and I make the decisions on, I really liked this article, I think it should fit here, I think we should push this one to our next edition, or just decisions like that. And then the crazy part comes when it's time to design. I am not a technology person. I have never pretended to be one. It's somehow I've landed myself the job of designing our paper. It's 16 pages, and as beautiful as it ends up coming out, so many people take a look at it. So many people give me advice about it as I'm designing. I work with Nicholas on it. But so many late nights and so many 6-hour phone calls with Nicholas.
I see. What are topics that you are all hoping to discuss in the future?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the theme for this edition deals a lot with kind of our Earth and our environment and the ways we take care of it and the ways that we connect with it. So personally, I would really like to see a lot more creative pieces this time. I know that a lot of people have already offered to write poems and short stories for this edition, so I think that that'll be great because our articles always turn out fantastic due to the contributions of everyone in the Beacon, but I think that those creative pieces are really kind of the heart of every student at BHS, and I think that they really speak to a large majority of people, and I think they see themselves in those pieces. And I think that going forward, that's just going to keep getting better and better, thanks to everyone.
All right. Anyone else you want to talk about? Any stories that you hope to publish?
Well, I'm planning to write a personal essay about like an existential senior, since me and Michelle's senior year's coming to an end, sadly. And all we hear is like, oh, where are you going for college? Like, what are your plans? But they don't really think that a big part of us is ending in June. So that's really an article that I'm going to write about. But I don't want to give too much of it, so you still want to read it.
I see. Do you enjoy being the Beacon? Is it stressful? Is it exciting? What's your overall thoughts of it?
Overall, I really do enjoy joining the Beacon. Like, I enjoy the fact, like, being able to write, being able to just creatively express myself, and especially hearing the stories of others. Like, especially with a lot of my articles, I love to do interviews, and it's, like, ironic. It's, like, I normally am the one interviewing, and here I am getting interviewed. But, like, I just really love, like, I just love giving the people the exposure that they deserve, especially certain teachers, like doing different teacher spotlights, or even I hope to do in the next upcoming edition a spotlight of a student that graduated and became a substitute teacher, like giving her this platform to be able to like hear about what her high school experience was like at Bayonne High School, what it's like to come back. And I just really enjoy like being able to give these people a greater platform.
Yeah, Nick, do you want to say anything else?
Oh yeah, so like kind of Michelle said, my favorite articles that I write and read are always about the students and the teachers of Bayonne High School. You know, we walk these halls every day and we kind of go by everyone, and you never really realize that everyone has their own story to share and everyone has their own backgrounds. So, one of the first articles I ever wrote was a teacher spotlight on my English teacher, Miss David. And she told me this amazing story about her education. And I never would have known that if it wasn't for the Beacon. So I love sharing the stories behind, our students. And, one of my good friends, her name is Nidhi. I did an article on her because she's a teen entrepreneur. And these stories are, it's so amazing for me to be able to share everyone's story through the Beacon. So I always look forward to those articles.
And I think he touches upon something that's really interesting, is everybody does have a story to share, and being in this position where, we're the ones responsible for writing them and making sure stories are told in an honest light, there is a little bit of fear going into it that we're doing students and we're doing our school justice through our quarterly publications. And I think it's important for us to remember going into our next edition is that the fear means nothing when you see students clutching a copy of the Beacon in the hallway or giggling over the advice column. I think there's nothing more satisfying after working on an edition so hard than that.
All right. Thank you very much. I'm definitely looking forward to the next issue of the Beacon, and thank you so much for coming on the show. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Sean Flores. We once again thank you very much for joining us on Bayonne Tonight. Good night, Bayonne!